Hi. Hola.
Hi, here's Mr. Abrasive.
This is Michael Bradley.
Hey, I'm Memphis.
Hey.
Hola. Hello.
I'm here with soccer.com.
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 And I'm talking with my friends soccer.com.
See you soon.
Hey guys, Josh from SoccerReviewsForYou.com, bringing you my review plus on-feet video of the brand new limited edition Anti-Clog Nike Magista Obra SG Pro. Now, as you guys can see, it does come in a special box with the Anti-Clog logo on the lid. Remove the lid, and on the underside, there's an extremely important piece of information. So for those of you guys that normally skip ahead and go right to the shoes, stick around, listen to what this says, because like I said, it's super important in regards to the anti-clog system. It answers some questions that you probably want answers to. So it says, works best when wet. We already know that. For those that don't know what the anti-clog system is, essentially it's a special material that the sole plate is made out of that does not allow the mud to stick to the bottom of it. So it's left completely bare. In a soft ground, muddy type playing environment, that is normally an issue. It's not supposed to be an issue with the anti-clog system. And the way the material works is it uses moisture and water from the actual muddy environment to lubricate the surface that doesn't allow mud to stick. So to say works best when wet isn't too surprising. For optimal performance, ensure the plate is wet and clean before use. Obviously, you want the sole plate to be as clean as possible, because if there is debris on the sole plate, that gives the mud something to stick to, which isn't going to allow the system to work as good as it can. And then there's this final piece of information. Do not use abrasive cloths or brushes, and this is really, really important. Obviously, they're implying that when you actually clean the shoe, that you make sure you're using a soft brush or something really, really soft that isn't going to scratch the surface. This also answers the question as to whether or not we're going to see a firm ground anti-clog shoe made available at some point in time. And based on that piece of information, that the fact that the sole plate can't get all scraped up, something I'll explain a little bit later in the video, probably isn't going to happen, because obviously in a firm ground type environment, the sole plate's going to get scraped up. The ground just isn't soft. That's why it's called firm ground, not soft ground. And then underneath here, for those that are wondering, it basically just says the same thing in French as well as Spanish. So we'll get into more details on all of that a little bit later in the video. Included with the shoes in the box, of course, being that this is a soft ground shoe, they include a stud wrench, because you do have removable metal studs. They also include an extra set of metal studs. These ones are 13 and 15 millimeter in length, which are basically 2 millimeters longer than the ones already included on the shoes. So if the ground is really, really soft, you do have that extra set that are a little bit longer. I've personally never had to use the longer set, but maybe some of you have. And then of course they include a string bag. The string bag is black in color, neon yellow or Volt strings, the Anti-Clog logo in the middle, and a Nike swoosh there at the bottom. And then of course you get the shoes themselves, the Anti-Clog Magista Obra. So we'll get these guys out of the box really quickly, and we'll take a closer look at what is a very, very interesting shoe from Nike. The Anti-Clog pack, for those that don't know, released exclusively on the Nike Football or Nike Soccer app, depending on what country that you're in, for the Obra, the Phantom 2, as well as the Nike Tiempo Legend 6. So they sold out at this point pretty much on the first day, so you can't really get them anywhere. If you're wondering, the retail price on the Magista Obra was $310 for the anti-clog variation. So basically a $25 premium over a standard pair of SG Pro Obras. And as you guys can see, this is the sole plate. Honestly, it doesn't look like anything too fancy in person. Basically just looks kind of like a cloudy plastic that is pretty smooth to the touch. Of course, we're going to go into more detail in this video. We're going to talk about the shoe in general. There are some changes to this particular variation of the Obra in comparison to all past colorways, most notably the missing heel counter. And like I said, we're going to cover basically every single detail in regards to the Anti-Clog Magista Obra in this video. So if you're interested in learning more, please stick around, listen to what I have to say. And with that being said, let's get right into the review. To start things off, let's go over all the tech specs and talk about the anti-clog system in general. Now, for those that don't know what the anti-clog system is, it's the sole plate on this particular shoe or this particular pack. You can see that it does say anti-clog right there on the heel. And as you guys can see, it's not the usual material that you would find on the sole plate of a Soft Ground Pro Magista Obra, and it's the exact same sole plate, the exact same stud pattern you're going to find across the entire anti-clog line, regardless of whether or not you buy the Obra, the Phantom 2, or the Legend 6. The actual layout of the stud pattern itself is no different from the standard Soft Ground Pro Obra, for those that are wondering. So as far as actual traction is concerned, it's going to work just fine. Based on my experience, soft ground shoes in general all perform pretty similarly. This being a mixed layout, you get a little bit of extra grip, but like I said, the performance, given that the ground is actually soft, will be quite good. The benefit of the anti-clog system, as the name would suggest, is that it prevents mud from clogging up the sole plate. So that's really the simplest explanation of what this is supposed to do. How does that actually happen though? Basically, Nike has been developing this technology over the last 2 years, at least that's what they've told us, and they've developed a special material, which is what this sole plate is made out of. It's an adaptive polymer, is how they described it, that basically uses the moisture or water from a soft ground, wet, muddy playing environment to create a lubricated surface layer on the actual sole plate, not allowing mud or dirt to stick to it. So instead of having the sole plate completely clogged up with mud after 5-10 minutes or just one hard cut, mud will not stick to the bottom of the shoe, which is an actual performance advantage. If your shoe's not clogged up, they're going to be lighter, and you're of course going to have optimal traction at all times, something that up until now has not been possible in a soft ground type environment. The shoes always tend to clog up, and this is not supposed to do that. So does it actually work? Haven't tried it yet. I'm going to be testing these things out very, very soon. So look out for an actual video where I actually test the traction of the shoe in a soft ground environment and see whether or not mud actually sticks to it. But what's really, really important to note in regards to this anti-clog system is going back to the start of the video where I showed you guys the underside of the lid of the box, basically telling you that you don't want to scrape up the bottom of this sole plate. I guess the best way to describe it is that if you leave the surface completely smooth, that's when it's going to be the most efficient. So that little kind of indication of don't scratch the sole plate for optimal, I guess, performance really tells me that this is not something that we're going to see as a firm ground type implementation, just because, like I said at the start of the video, firm ground is not soft. It's going to scratch the bottom of the shoe. So that's also a really, really important thing to note in regards to soft ground shoes in general. You shouldn't be wearing them on firm ground. You especially shouldn't be wearing them on artificial grass. And with this particular shoe, the anti-clog sole plate, if you do wear this on artificial grass or on firm ground, not only is it unsafe, not only is this a stud pattern that's not suited for that playing surface, you're going to completely destroy the anti-clog sole plate. You want it to be as smooth as possible so nothing can stick to it. If you add abrasion to the actual surface, it still might work, but it won't work as effectively. So they want you to make sure that it's cleaned. And like it said on the box as well, you want it to be wet from the start. So just make sure if you're going to be using this for it to work properly, you want it to actually be a wet, muddy environment, because water is actually required for this system to work. If you take it dry and put mud on it, it's likely going to stick. It needs moisture, it needs water, like I said, for this adaptive polymer material to be effective in not allowing mud to actually stick to it. So that's pretty much it as far as the anti-clog sole plate aspect of this shoe is concerned. What that changes in regards to the actual feel of the shoe, the actual sole plate itself, I would argue is a little bit more flexible than the standard Soft Ground Pro Obra, but the difference is extremely minimal. You're not really going to feel much of a difference once the shoe is broken in. The biggest change is obviously the lack of a heel counter. Normally you would have an external heel counter on a Magista Obra, be it a firm ground or soft ground pro model. With this shoe, it's completely internal, which is kind of unusual. Not sure why they did that. It doesn't really feel different when you're actually wearing the shoes themselves, but it is a change coming from, like I said, any other Magista Obra shoe that we've seen so far. And the rest of the shoe is just a regular Obra. It's a Flyknit construction. Nike skin covering, of course. ACC all conditions control is a feature, as you're going to find on all the top end models from Nike. It's a very structured Flyknit material with a padded liner on the inside, Brio cables that run from the base of the sole into the lacing system, so when you pull the laces tight, it gives you that nice, secure, locked in feel. And the overall touch that it provides is on the thinner side, but because of the padded liner and kind of denseness of the Flyknit upper, it does have a slightly padded feel to it as well. Laces are slightly off-centered, pushed to the medial side, as you guys can see. You have elasticated Flyknit running through where the laces are positioned, as well as in the collar. Dynamic fit collar, a lot of misconceptions. A lot of people seem to think that this offers some kind of performance benefit. It doesn't. There's no ankle support. There's no structure to this collar. It's there as an extension piece and as kind of a visual modification, if you will. It does change the way the shoe fits and feels in the heel area a little bit, something we'll talk about later in the video. But other than that, like I said, there is no performance benefit to the actual mid-cut design aspect of this shoe. Inside the shoe, there is a synthetic leather liner with some padding back there, so step-in comfort. Not amazing with this shoe. Again, it fits a little bit strange in the heel in comparison to a standard model, so the break-in process, depending on your tolerance for that kind of thing, may be longer or shorter. And then, of course, the insole, which is different from the standard version for whatever reason. I would assume it has to do with the sole plate, but as you guys can see, it's a mesh liner on top, perforations throughout. It's the same yellow foam we would normally find with a Superfly insole, but this also has pour-on inserts in the heel as well as the forefoot and big toe area, so a little bit more significant as far as underfoot cushioning is concerned with that extra pour-on insert. So overall, it's a nicer insole. There's really nothing to complain about. But it is a change, again, in comparison to a standard Soft Ground Pro Obra. But that's pretty much it as far as tech specs go. Let me know your thoughts on the anti-clog system down below in the comment section, and let me know what you guys would like to see as far as a test video is concerned with this anti-clog sole plate. As far as weight is concerned, I thought we'd compare a standard Magista Obra in the Soft Ground Pro variation to the anti-clog model to see if there's any weight difference between the two, given that the sole plates aren't made from the same material. So I'm going to weigh both shoes for you today in real time using this scale. Keep in mind they're both in brand new condition and both the exact same size 9.5 US. So this is a very fair comparison. We'll start off with the regular SG Pro Obra, throw it on the scale, and you can see that they weigh in at 8.6 ounces, the equivalent of 243 grams, which is pretty light for a pair of soft ground shoes. So we'll change the scale back to ounces, pull these off, and we'll throw on the anti-clog variation, and you can see that they weigh in at 9.9 ounces, the equivalent of 281 grams. So basically an ounce and a half more than the standard Soft Ground Pro Obra, which is fairly significant both in hand as well as on feet. But when you factor in that this particular sole plate, while it weighs a little bit more, won't allow mud to stick to it, the amount of mud that could potentially stick to the bottom of the standard Soft Ground Pro model will basically even out the weight difference between these two shoes. And weight put aside, you also have to consider that because this shoe won't get clogged up with mud on the bottom, you're going to have optimal traction at all times, where with the standard soft ground shoe or just a standard soft ground shoe in general, the sole plate's going to get all clogged up, which is going to make the studs a lot less effective, which could result in a higher percentage or a higher chance of actually slipping. So yes, this anti-clog sole plate weighs a little bit more than a standard Soft Ground Pro variation from Nike, at least when you're talking about the Obra, but the actual performance benefit that will be had from mud not sticking to the bottom, I would argue is more important than the extra ounce and a half of actual weight. As far as aesthetics go, the anti-clog pack in general is pretty straightforward. They kept the colorways very simple as far as having a black base to pretty much every shoe. The only accent color you're going to find is the Volt Yellow outline of the Nike swoosh on either side. The swoosh is actually filled in with what's basically like a sparkly holographic color, so it kind of changes color depending on how the light hits it. A little bit of blue, a little bit of purple, some orange, some green, some yellow in there. It's kind of a cool idea. I'm not crazy about it, but it definitely doesn't look bad on the shoe, and from a distance it basically just looks like it's black. So for the most part, this is almost a blackout shoe. The shoe doesn't have a heel counter, which I guess makes this look a little bit different in comparison to other Obra models. I actually don't mind how it looks. Not to say that the heel counter is ugly or anything like that, but this actually looks pretty good in my opinion. I like this little anti-clog logo they have on the back. I think that's pretty cool. And then of course it's just an extension piece so that they can actually have the logo on what is just an extra piece of sole plate basically. And then the bottom of the shoe, again, it's not something that you're really going to see when you're actually wearing them, but it looks interesting. It has this foggy look. It has the Nike swoosh underneath, as you guys can see, just because it is translucent. And then, of course, this particular colorway, or the anti-clog pack, I should say, does come with gold anodized studs, which looks pretty cool, but the actual color itself will wear off as you wear them just because it's just a finish on the outside. The actual metal itself is not gold. So overall, I think it's a pretty good looking pack. There really isn't much to not like about it, given that it is mostly all black. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Do you like how these look? Why or why not? And with that being said, let's move on to the on-feet portion of the video so we can get a better idea as to how these shoes fit and of course what the sizing is like. All right, so here is a look at the Anti-Clog Obras on feet. On my left foot, I have the stock black laces that come with the shoes. And on my right foot, I have a pair of neon yellow and black grid pattern SR4U replacement laces. If you're interested in a pair of replacement laces for yourself, the website to go to is www.sr4ulaces.com. Find a direct link to that website down below in the description of this video. Now, in terms of how these things fit and feel on feet, they feel like regular Obras, if I'm completely honest with you guys. Yes, the material of the sole plate is a little bit different, and yes, it has a different insole, so the amount of underfoot cushioning, I guess, is slightly more significant with this particular pair, given those pour-on inserts. But other than that, the fit and feel is that of a regular Obra. The Anti-Clog sole plate doesn't really change the feel of the shoe in any kind of significant way. So if that's something you were concerned about, wouldn't really be too big of a concern. As far as the fit of the Obra is concerned though, I think it's pretty straightforward as far as what people know about this shoe and what people expect from the shoe. It offers a really comfortable kind of sock-like sensation, especially once broken in. Given that it is a mid-cut model from Nike, it's really important that you kind of take your time with the break-in process. A lot of people struggle, especially in the heel area, with it just fitting a little bit different, being a little bit stiff at first. But as long as you don't wear them straight into a game or straight into a free kick session, you shouldn't have too many issues as far as discomfort is concerned. As far as the lack of heel counter on this particular pair and whether or not that changes the feel in the heel area, it doesn't. Feels pretty much the same in my opinion. And the upper, very soft, fits your foot really nicely, especially when you pull the laces tight, and also maintains a nice kind of secure, responsive sensation once you start moving around a little bit more intensely. As far as width is concerned, it has some decent width to it and will be suitable for most people, although they won't really stretch. So if you have extremely wide feet, maybe not the best option. But like I said, will fit most people. And as far as sizing is concerned, the Magista line runs about a half size small. So instead of wearing my usual size 9 US, I bumped it up to a 9.5, and the fit and the length is absolutely perfect. So if you are looking to order a pair for yourself, I would strongly recommend going a half size up in order to achieve the best possible fit. All right, guys, that is it for my review of the Anti-Clog Nike Magista Obra. Expect to see more content on this shoe and the Anti-Clog system in general in the very near future on my channel. If you are interested in more info right now, you can check out the review page on my website. That'll be the very first link down below in the description of this video. On that page, you'll find the high quality pictures of this exact pair that I took myself that'll give you a better idea as to how they actually do look in person. But of course, like I mentioned earlier in the video, this released exclusively on the Nike Soccer, Nike Football app, so they aren't actually available anywhere for purchase. If you guys have any questions at all regarding this particular shoe, leave them down below in the comments and I definitely will get an answer out to you. If you enjoyed today's video, found it helpful and informative, be sure to support it with a like. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all my social media information linked in the description as well. And other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. And as always, thanks for watching.